You know, I've been performing magic for a little over 10 years now. And in that time, I've learned a lot of tricks that made my life easier and also got me a lot more work. Now, some of this is going to be Magic Boy specific, but a lot of it's pretty universal. Whether you do guitar playing, balloon artistry, or juggling, or whatever, a lot of these will probably apply to you. Now this video is going to be 6 things to do before your gig to either get you rehired or just generally make your life easier. So number 1. Now number 1 might seem pretty obvious to some of you, but it is attire. What you're wearing to your event. I think a lot of people pick out one outfit as like their performance outfit and then they just do every event. Either overdressed or worse, underdressed. Now, obviously, some events are pretty obvious the way you dress, right? If you're doing a wedding, you know, something like this. But of course, this outfit doesn't fit every situation. I mean, for something like a family reunion or maybe a festival, and then some hosts might not want you overdressing. They might want something a little bit more in between, like, you know, like this. Generally, I'm saying is ask your client what the aesthetic is. My rule of thumb personally is I find out what the aesthetic of the party is and I just dress slightly above that. Plus, you don't want to be wearing a suit at a pool party and smell like a stinky gorilla sweating his pants off. I mean, really, when you're in doubt, the easiest thing is just ask your client. Alright, on to number 2. Alright, so number 2 is probably the biggest mistake I see most performers make, and that's advertising. Now I know in Magic, most of my close-up Magic buddies know about business cards, and they usually bring that with them to hand out when they go table to table or group to group. But unfortunately, that doesn't solve all issues. If you do a stage show, or if you're doing some kind of act for ambiance at a party, say like fire eating or juggling in the background, people aren't going to interrupt your act to ask for your business card. So you need a way to kind of passively advertise to them. In other words, you just need to throw up a banner, a sandwich board, or some other kind of sign that has your contact info that people can whip out their phone and take a picture of. Something simple like, I do parties, contact me at blankety blankety blank, and people can just take an easy picture of it and bring it on their way. You gotta think of ways to advertise. Have your sign out there so you can get other gigs and get contacted by those people at the party. Out of all these tips, this has gotta be one of the most valuable. Okay, number 3. Now number 3 is your case. Close-up magicians, stop bringing fanny packs to your corporate gigs. This is a case I got for $10 and it keeps my stuff organized and it makes me look like a professional when I walk in with this case and not a fanny pack. And if you're worried about this getting stolen because you're leaving it somewhere, you really shouldn't. You really just have to ask the host where you can put it that'll be safe, or if there's a bar, you ask the bartenders if you can just put it behind the bar. I've never had somebody tell me no. Plus, this doesn't take up a lot of room. And don't forget, I got this for $10 at a resale shop. A new fanny pack will cost you more than this box. But also, you can use your cases to advertise. This is an extremely simple setup. All it is a keyboard stand with my case on top. Went to Office Max, had them print off this little thing I made in Photoshop, and then Velcro it on. And when my case is open, I'm advertising. I have a second case that has all my contact info on it. So while I'm doing a show, people will pull out their phones, take a picture, and they'll immediately know how to contact me. And you should really be doing the same thing. Alright, now tip number 4. Now tip number 4, have backups. I am about to save you an embarrassment. Now ideally, you want an entire backup of your entire show, but I know a lot of us are artists, we can't always afford an entire backup of maybe $1,000 show that you do. But at a minimum, you should have backups of your intro and your finale. If you're a guitar player and you break a string, you're not going to be able to restring on stage. You're gonna need a backup. So my advice is, even if it's a cheap backup, have a backup. This is especially important if you use any amount of audio in your show. If you use speakers, you should have a minimum of 2 speakers for one and 2 microphones. If one of your microphones dies and you have a huge audience to entertain, you don't want to be screaming, and you definitely don't want to be relying on clients' audio. So again, intro, finale, have backups for those two guys. Ideally, full backup of your own show, because you never know what could happen. Your stuff can get stolen, it can break on stage. Have backups. Just save yourself the embarrassment and have some backups. Number 5. Alright, number 5 is probably the easiest one that you can do that will make the biggest difference in you getting either recommended by your client or rehired by your client. And that is to use either one of these or one of these to send them an email or give them a phone call 1 week before and 1 day before the event. Why is that important? Well, if you think about it from their perspective, when they are hiring you, they are kind of putting their reputation in your hands. If you do a bad job, or worse, you don't show up to the event, it's going to come down on them from all the other people at the event. Obviously, it'll come down on you to some extent. You will probably get a bad review and you won't get hired again. But again, their reputation is also going to suffer. And that is really the number one complaint I've heard from past clients, is hiring a really good performer, but them just not showing up. You can be the best performer in the world, but if you don't show up, in their eyes, you're gonna be the worst. A semi-good performer who shows up to every event and is highly reliable is always a million times better than the best performer who doesn't. So by giving them a little bit of a courtesy call or email, it lets them know that 1, you're taking their event very seriously and you're acting like a professional. They're gonna remember that and they're gonna feel safe recommending you to other people. They're gonna think, wow, he took my event that seriously, he probably does that for everybody. You'd be surprised how much a 2-second email of, "I'll see you on Saturday," makes. Alright, number 6. Now, number 6 is logistics. The most boring, but probably the most useful. Now, there's 2 parts to this. One part is just organizing your gigs. And the way I organize my gigs is I usually use Google Calendar because it works across all devices, and I can immediately know when somebody calls me whether or not I'm available and just pop it up. It also allows me to do some notifications, so it'll notify me that 1 week before and that 1 day before, so I can, recontact my clients. The second part of this is planning out your day. You're probably going to end up doing multiple gigs in a day, and making sure that you have enough time in between them is going to be essential. When I first started out and I had a booking at 3 to 4, and then somebody would call me and they'd say I'd have a booking at 5, and I would look, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's an hour away, yeah, I can make it. No, I can't, because I'm not factoring in everything I need to do. And there's really 4 things you should do when planning out your day. 1, setup time. Make sure you know how long it takes you to set up and break down your show, because that's going to factor into being able to get to the next place. Number 2, know traffic. You should know the traffic of the day and the route. Google Maps is great because you can actually plug in the date that you're going to do, and it'll bring in all these statistics and tell you if there's going to be a lot of traffic or not that day. It's not always going to be 100% accurate because there might be a holiday or something that you don't know about, and so there's more or less traffic that day. But for the most part, it's pretty accurate. And then number 3, your attire. If I'm doing a kid's birthday and then later a wedding, I gotta make time to completely change my outfit into a nice suit. Factoring that in is essential. And then number 4, giving yourself extra time for unknowns. I always give myself an extra 15 minutes in between gigs, because things can happen. You might have to stop for gas. Traffic might not be what you thought it was. Or maybe Google Maps is just wrong on this address and you're going to be looking around for 15 minutes trying to figure out where to park. Having a little extra cushion time is kind of essential. But as long as you keep those 4 things in mind, your day will go a lot smoother. Logistics. It's not the most fun thing, but it is essential. Now, I never really meant this list to be all-encompassing of what you should do and how you should handle your gigs, but if there's anything that you think should have been on the list, make sure to shoot it in the comments below. I know other professional magicians sometimes watch my stuff, and this is just meant to help out mostly people who are starting out or a bit more amateur and kind of want to dip their toes in the professional realm of magic or performing. And there's always more to learn. So if you guys thought this video was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing for other stuff like this, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.